Okay, here's something a bit unexpected. You've got a company known for, like, really advanced medical devices.
Yeah.
And now they're making diaper rash cream.
Yeah, it definitely catches your
Right.
attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So today, we're digging into Sonoma Pharmaceuticals, that's SNOA, on the NASDAQ. They've spent, what, 2 decades building up this expertise in stabilized hypochlorous acid, HOCL, mostly for doctors and vets.
Professional channels.
Exactly. But now they've made this pretty major strategic shift. They've launched their first big over-the-counter consumer product right here in the U.S. And yeah, it's a diaper rash treatment.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to understand this bold leap Sonoma's taking. I mean, the U.S. consumer healthcare market, it's huge, it's lucrative, but wow, is it competitive?
For sure.
So we'll unpack the product itself, which is unique, their pretty ambitious distribution plan, the big financial tightrope they're walking, and, what this high-stakes move could mean for them, and maybe even how you think about everyday products off the shelf.
Right. So the Sonoma Pharmaceuticals, they've got all this deep know-how in HOCL technology, mostly B2B, medical, veterinary use.
Yeah.
So why? Why the sudden pivot into something like diaper rash cream? It feels like a total left turn.
It absolutely is a left turn, strategically speaking. And look, this isn't just about launching one new product. Sonoma themselves are calling it a defining test of this whole pivot into the consumer world.
A defining test, okay.
Yeah. They're taking their patented microsin technology, which, again, was mostly business to business, and putting it directly into your hands, or rather, parents' hands.
How are they doing that rollout?
Well, get this. They launched simultaneously on the shelves of 3,600 Walmart stores and on Amazon.com, right out of the gate.
Wow, okay. For a smaller company like Sonoma, launching in thousands of Walmarts and Amazon basically overnight, that sounds monumental.
Oh, it is. It's a massive undertaking. Definitely a high-risk, high-reward kind of situation for them.
Okay, let's get into the product then. Because the diaper rash aisle is already packed, what makes Sonoma's cream actually different from, the dozens of things parents already see?
Right, good question. The real differentiator, the core strength, is the active ingredient, hypochlorous acid, HOCL.
HOCL.
And what's really fascinating, kind of cool actually, is that HOCL is endogenous, meaning it's naturally made by your own body. Your white blood cells, neutrophils specifically, produce it as a first line of defense against germs.
Wait, so our bodies make this stuff already. That's pretty remarkable. Does that automatically mean it's safer? Or what's the big deal about using something our immune system already uses?
Well, it's not just that it's natural in that sense. The real leap here is Sonoma taking this fundamental biological defense mechanism, something usually seen in, advanced medical settings or vet clinics, and turning it into an everyday consumer product you can buy at Walmart.
Okay, that is a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a paradigm shift for treating common stuff, and HOCL works in multiple ways, which is key.
How so?
Okay, so first, it's a really potent antimicrobial. It actively kills bacteria like Staph aureus and fungi like Candida, the kinds of things that make diaper rash worse. So unlike traditional creams, it's actively fighting the microbes.
Okay, active fighting, not just blocking.
Exactly. Second, it's anti-inflammatory. So it helps reduce that redness, the swelling, the discomfort, basically calming down the inflammation signals. Studies show it can lower inflammatory cytokines.
Makes sense.
And third, there's evidence it's antipruritic, anti-itch. Research, okay, it was on mice, but it suggests HOCL significantly reduces the itch sensation by kind of dampening the nerve response. That means potentially quicker comfort for the baby.
That multi-action approach sounds fundamentally different. Like you said, the market is just dominated by zinc oxide creams. Desitin, Balmex, Boudreaux, butt paste. Everyone knows those names. How does HOCL stack up?
Well, zinc oxide, it primarily works by forming a passive physical barrier. Think of it like putting a shield over the skin to keep moisture out.
Right, a barrier.
Sonoma's HOCL product, though, they're positioning it as a superior active treatment. It works with the body's own systems to tackle the root causes, the pathogens, the inflammation, instead of just creating that temporary shield.
So the marketing story becomes about actual healing and resolution, not just protection.
Precisely. That's the narrative they can build. Healing, not just protecting.
That's a potentially huge difference for parents looking for real solutions. Now, what about the product specifics? And safety, obviously critical for babies.
So the product is an antimicrobial hydrogel. It's based on their patented microsin technology, which is all about stabilizing that HOCL molecule so it can be used therapeutically and keeping it at the right pH.
And the safety profile.
Crucially for parents, they state it's clinically proven to be non-cytotoxic, meaning it doesn't harm skin cells, non-irritating, non-sensitizing, and importantly, it boasts a no-sting application. Nobody wants something that stings on already irritated skin.
Definitely not. Is it missing anything, though, like seals of approval?
That's a good point. One thing that seems to be missing from their public communications, or at least hasn't been highlighted, are certifications like the National Eczema Association seal or maybe endorsements from pediatrician groups. That feels like a bit of an information gap for you as a potential buyer.
Interesting. And what about the user experience? Zinc creams can be so messy.
Right. While they haven't detailed the exact packaging, other HOCL products often come in like a no-rub spray format.
Yeah.
That would be a massive plus compared to thick zinc paste.
A spray would be amazing.
Yeah.
But okay, here's something you mentioned earlier that's really weird. They haven't announced the actual brand name.
Yeah, it's a critical and honestly pretty perplexing omission in all their public statements so far. We know the technology, the launch partner, the stores, but not the name on the tube or bottle.
How does that even work? What kind of challenge does that pose when you're trying to build buzz against huge established brands?
It's unusual, to say the least. It suggests maybe a very last-minute branding decision or perhaps some kind of intentional stealth launch, though that seems counterintuitive for a consumer product. Either way, it definitely makes building brand recognition and educating consumers much, much harder right now. Makes a full analysis of their marketing strategy impossible for us at the moment.
Okay, well, despite the missing name, let's talk market opportunity. Just how big is this diaper rash cream market they're jumping into?
It's pretty substantial. The U.S. market is estimated somewhere between, say, $570 million and $740 million a year.
Wow, okay.
And it's growing steadily, maybe 5–6% COGR. But as we said, it's a mature market, it's fragmented, but zinc oxide formulas absolutely dominate, over 70% share. You've got the giants, J&J with Desitin, apparently used by 40% of parents, Prestige with Boudreaux, Beiersdorf with Aquaphor, big players.
So against that backdrop, how does a relatively small company like Sonoma, with basically zero mass market retail history, suddenly land shelf space in 3,600 Walmarts and get listed on Amazon right at launch?
Yeah.
It's a million-dollar question, right?
It really is. And the key, the sort of secret weapon here, appears to be a U.S.-based distribution partner. SEC filings point to Wellspring Pharmaceutical Corporation.
Wellspring. Do we know them?
Yeah, they're an established consumer healthcare company. They have a portfolio of well-known over-the-counter brands you'd recognize, like Bactine, Bonine, A+D ointment.
Ah, okay. A+D, right.
Exactly. And crucially, Wellspring has this sophisticated distribution network already set up. They know how to deal with Walmart, Amazon, all the channels. Sonoma is essentially piggybacking on Wellspring's existing infrastructure, their relationships, their expertise, stuff Sonoma just doesn't have internally for this kind of launch.
So that partnership is what made this huge launch possible, basically.
It seems that way. It dramatically cuts down the execution risk for Sonoma and lets them get into the market way faster than they could alone. Of course, there's a trade-off.
Would it?
Well, it means Sonoma gives up some margin, right?
Yeah.
Wellspring needs its cut. And it creates a dependency on this third party. Sonoma's success is now tied to Wellspring's performance and priorities, too.
That makes sense. So partnering with Wellspring sounds like a clever shortcut, maybe even essential. But doesn't it create a huge dependency down the road? What if Wellspring's priorities change, or the deal isn't as good later on?
That's a very sharp point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a strategic necessity right now to get that immediate market access, but it definitely gives Wellspring significant leverage. Long term, Sonoma needs this product to be a winner for both companies to keep that relationship strong.
And just getting on the shelf isn't the end game, right? Staying there is tough.
Exactly. Getting initial placement is one hurdle. Keeping it is another battle entirely. Retailers like Walmart are ruthless with key performance indicators KPIs.
Like how fast it sells.
Precisely. Sales velocity, how many units sell per store, per week, inventory turnover, making sure it's actually in stock, customer reviews, return rates. If this new product doesn't hit those metrics, Walmart will pull it quickly.
So the pressure is on from day one.
Immense pressure. And, beyond the physical stores, the Amazon marketplace is going to be a huge battleground, too, maybe even more important early on.
Why more important?
Because unlike a crowded shelf, Amazon lets them do more educational marketing videos, infographics explaining HOCL, and maybe most importantly, customer reviews pop up instantly, in public, good or bad. Strong early sales and, crucially, positive reviews on Amazon could be really powerful signals for Sonoma and maybe even influence Walmart.
Okay, which brings us right back to marketing. How on earth does Sonoma plan to cut through all that noise and actually teach parents about this new ingredient, HOCL? Given how, entrenched zinc oxide is, isn't it a massive behavioral hurdle to get parents to try something totally new, even if the science sounds better? Familiarity has to be a huge barrier.
It is a huge hurdle. You nailed it. That's why their marketing faces this tough dual challenge. Number one, build a brand, whatever it's called, from absolute zero awareness. Number two, educate the market on a completely new scientific concept, HOCL, for diaper rash. That's way harder and way more expensive than just launching, say, a new sense of Desitin.
So what are the core messages likely to be?
It seems like they'll focus on three pillars. First, the science, a smarter way to treat, positioning it as more effective. Second, safety and gentleness, emphasizing sting-free, non-toxic, huge for parents. And third, a better user experience, that non-greasy hydrogel, or maybe even a spray format.
And how will they get that message out?
Given the target audience, parents of babies and toddlers, 0 to 3 years old, you have to figure it's going to be heavily skewed toward the digital channels. Social media, maybe parent influencers, targeted online ads, that's where you reach those parents today.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk money. The company called this launch transformative financially.
Yeah.
How big could this actually be for Sonoma?
Well, let's put it in perspective. Sonoma's total revenue over the last year was around $14.9 million. Small company.
Right, tiny, relatively speaking.
But the U.S. diaper rash market is, say, $600–700 million. If Sonoma could capture even a tiny slice of that, let's say just 1% to 3% market share in the next few years, that could mean an extra $7 million to maybe $22 million in new annual revenue.
Whoa, that would literally double the size of the company, potentially.
Exactly. It could completely change their financial profile. Transformative isn't an exaggeration if it works.
But there's always a but, right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a cash flow trough. Sounds ominous. What's that about?
Yeah, this is the scary part financially. To launch this big, Sonoma had to undertake a massive inventory buildup. You can see it on their balance sheet. Inventory jumped from $2.9 million up to $3.8 million. That's cash tied up.
Okay.
Then you've got the big retailers like Walmart. They demand long payment terms, often 60, even 90 days after they receive the product. So Sonoma spends a ton of cash up front on making the stuff, marketing it, and then they have to wait months to get paid.
So cash out, long wait for cash in.
Precisely. That gap, that period where lots of cash is going out and very little is coming in, that's the cash flow trough. And for Sonoma, with a relatively small cash balance, reportedly around $3.6 million, it's incredibly dangerous. Managing cash through this period is probably their single most critical short-term challenge. Any hiccups, any delays in sales or payments could trigger a serious liquidity crisis.
Yikes. That sounds like walking a very fine line. Is there any potential relief valve for that pressure?
Well, there's an interesting angle here. Remember how we said their stock price more than doubled after the launch announcement?
Yeah.
That sharp rise in stock price actually creates an opportunity. It gives management a window where they could potentially do a secondary equity offering, sell more stock to raise cash.
Oh, use the higher stock price to bring in capital.
Exactly. It would significantly de-risk the launch by giving them the cash buffer they need to navigate this cash-intensive period. The downside, of course, is that it would dilute the ownership of existing shareholders. But it might be a necessary move.
Okay, practicalities. Where are they actually making this stuff? Is it outsourced too?
No, interestingly, Sonoma actually manufactures its products at its own facility down in Guadalajara, Mexico.
On facility. Pros and cons there, I imagine.
Definitely. Owning the facility vertical integration helps protect their intellectual property around the microsyn technology. That's a pro.
But the con?
The con is it creates a huge single point of failure, especially for this critical U.S. consumer launch. If anything disrupts that Guadalajara facility, a natural disaster, a labor issue, a supply chain problem, even a regulatory snag, their entire supply for the U.S. market could just stop.
And that would be catastrophic with retailers like Walmart.
Absolutely. Stockouts lead to massive financial penalties from retailers, lost sales obviously, and potentially losing that hard-won shelf space permanently. It's a significant operational risk concentration.
Now, what about the people driving this? Who's actually running this big strategic pivot? Does Sonoma's leadership team even have experience launching consumer brands? That feels really different from medical devices.
It's another critical piece. If you look at the executive team's backgrounds, you see a lot of deep expertise in pharmaceuticals, medical devices, finance, which makes sense given their history.
But not CPG.
Yeah.
Consumer packaged goods.
Right. There appears to be A, let's say, notable gap in direct CPG launch experience. The CEO, Amy Trumbley, for instance, her background is more in corporate law and finance, not really CPG brand building from scratch.
Okay, so how do they manage that gap?
This actually helps explain why partnering with Wellspring was such a rational, maybe even essential strategic move. They effectively bought the missing expertise. They outsourced a lot of the retail execution to a partner who knows that world inside and out. It shows a pragmatic understanding of their own internal limitations.
Smart. Okay. So pulling it all together, what's the bigger picture for Sonoma's future? Is this really just about cornering the diaper rash market, or is there a grander plan?
Oh, there's definitely a bigger play here. This diaper rash product, assuming it works, is really positioned as the cornerstone, the first step in a much broader long-term strategy. The goal is to transform Sonoma into a significant player in consumer healthcare, not just medical devices.
So the diaper rash cream is like the way in.
Exactly. Think of it as the Trojan horse. For 20 years, their microcin technology was kind of invisible to you, the average consumer, locked away in B2B channels. A successful diaper rash cream puts that technology directly into millions of homes for the first time. It builds awareness and credibility for microcin itself.
And once they have that beachhead.
Then it opens up all sorts of future growth options. This launch serves as a strategic beachhead.
Like what?
Well, first, it could pave the way for more pediatric products using the same tech, maybe things for eczema, cradle cap, minor cuts, and scrapes. A whole baby care line.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, it gives them a proven success story they can take international. Remember, Sonoma already has a presence in 55 countries through their professional channels. A winning U.S. consumer product gives them a model to replicate elsewhere.
Okay.
And third, long-term, it could even open up opportunities to license the microcin technology to the big CPG giants like P&G or J&J for use in their products. That would create a really high-margin royalty revenue stream for Sonoma.
Wow. Okay, so really the success or failure of this one single product launch, this currently unnamed diaper rash cream, feels like it could be the main catalyst determining Sonoma's entire future trajectory. Can they actually make that leap from being a small medtech firm to a profitable, growing consumer healthcare company?
That's precisely the high-stakes question right now. Everything seems to hinge on this launch.
Wow. Okay, what an incredibly deep dive into Sonoma Pharmaceuticals. We've really unpacked a fascinating story here. A company making a huge bet on some unique science, an incredibly ambitious rollout strategy, and navigating some serious financial and market hurdles.
Yeah, it's quite the case study. And zooming out, just for a final thought, Sonoma's big gamble really makes you, our listener, think, doesn't it? What does this pivot suggest about the future? Could we see more specialized technologies, things born in biotech labs or medical device companies, follow this path and try to become mainstream consumer products?
That's a great question.
And if so, what other hurdles, beyond just the science being cool, do they face? We talked about distribution, marketing, finance. It seems like the innovation itself is only part of the battle, maybe even the easier part sometimes. What do you think?